point, guys. I actually think it's important that we unpack now that we understand everyone's All-Star game selections. That we perhaps take a look at who you believe is the top 5 for MVP. So, Brian, you just dropped. I mean, you just asked about the All-Star game MVP. Let's talk about the regular season MVP today. Who are your top 5 regular season MVP candidates, right? Do you guys want to currently know what's going on in the NBA? What the current NBA selection is? Let me yell out the numbers. I'll go. Let's see if I can get the 10. I've got the 10, right? At number 1 currently in the NBA, we've got Nikola Jokic, right? Number 2, we've got Jason Tatum. Number 3, Kevin Durant. Number 4, Luca Doncic. Number 5, Giannis Antetokounmpo.
Wrong. That list is wrong.
I'll tell you the quick next 5. 6, Joel Embiid. They are saying currently Ja Morant and Don Mitch are tied for 7th. 9 is Jaylen Brown, and 10 is Zion Williamson. That's what the current NBA Kia NBA MVP ladder is saying. I want to hear from the Mpumi NBA MVP ladder. I want to hear from the Brian NBA MVP ladder. Mpumi, over to you. Yell out your top 5 MVP candidates.
Again, I don't think I have a top 5. I think I have a top 4. It goes back to me thinking Jason Tatum is just a tier below, right? I think that
we want order, Bumi. We also want order. Hey, I want 1 to 4.
No, sir. Want to give us Andrew Wiggins as number 1.
I'm not going to give you any particular order, but I am going to tell you that I think the 4 guys who are really in the running to be the MVP, Nikola Jokic, of course, Luca Doncic, Kevin Durant, and Giannis Antetokounmpo. I don't think, as much as, Jason Tatum right now is sitting at 2nd, that for me doesn't really. I still think he's not.
So you got to have a 5, right? If he's not number 5, who's then? Come on now.
Only one person.
Jason ain't in this.
Why do I need 5?
But then who is? If it's not him, then who's next? But I can buy. Let's go. Give me your top 5. I want to hear about your top 5 before I jump into my top 1.
Thanks for asking, Brian. Sometimes you feel a bit left out. I think. So my top 5 in order, because this has to be a ladder. It has to be, because it's a ladder that can change week to week, maybe month to month, right?
The season is so long.
Exactly. That's why I said today, Mbumi. Okay, I said today. But look,
and the
thing is, and the important thing I think is also we've got to contextualize why today. So for me, currently, my top 5 is Nikola Jokic at number 1. It's going to be wild if he gets 3 MVPs in a row. But the special thing about what Nikola is doing right now is he brought his team to number 1 in the league. If he continues with that, they're going to be like, no, but he's done something unique every season, or the numbers have been unique every season, or whatever the case may be. So I think Nikola is number 1. Number two, I would give it up to Joel Embiid. I think the numbers are there as well. I'm willing to give it up to Joel Embiid as the number 2. At number 3, there was a bit of haterade in this, but it's Luca Doncic. And I think Luca could easily contend for that number 2. Actually, I'm exercising my right to change my mind. I'm swapping in. It's Luca at number 2, Joel at number 3, Giannis at number 4, and Jason Tatum at number 5. And it's hard to explain why the guy with the best record in the conference, with Jason Tatum, with the Boston Celtics having the best record, why Jason Tatum is not higher up.
No, I get it.
But yeah, it's, again, you just look above him, and you can't say that he's MVP above those guys. But there's a fair argument to say, if I'm looking at team records as a factor, JT could easily knock out Luca and Embiid and find himself at, a different level. But that's my 5, and in that order, with no apology.
So wrong. I'm gonna give you my 5. And I agree with you, right? The record is a real thing, and obviously you gotta adapt the record and kind of give someone love for that. But I think another thing I consider is the support, man. Luca Doncic at number 1. Luca White Chocolate Doncic at number 1. That is my MVP for this season. I am putting my head on the chopping block right now. Luca Doncic will lift that team this year, barring something miraculous.
That's what you say every season.
Wait, hold on. Brian might give anything. And I would like to agree with Brian.
Number one, Luca gonna be here with it. Luca gonna be here
Wait,
with it.
Booby,
Luca
what?
Doncic is my number one. You heard him?
Booby,
What you
you
meant?
said-
I would
what?
like to see Luka Doncic be MVP this year.
Not that you would
It's not
like
gonna
to see it.
happen.
You think it will happen. You think it will happen.
I think
Because
it will
those are two
happen,
different
but I'd
things.
also really like to see it.
Yeah, no. I think he's playing better. He is playing better than he's played for a while. And look, Nikola Jokic, 25 points, 10 rebounds, 9.7. He's staring at a triple double, right? And that's going to be better than what he's done in his previous MVP campaigns. But I think what happened to LeBron James and a lot of these guys, voter fatigue, bro. We're tired of dapping you for this thing. Let's just give it to someone else. I think that's what will happen. I am putting my head on the chopping block that Luca will be MVP. I hear your production. Number two, Nikola. Number three, yeah, you see, you forget that there's only one order I have, and it's Luca. Number two, I can dap Nikola. Number three, I'm a dap Jason Tatum. Number four, Joel Embiid. Number five, Kevin Durant. That's my order,
Brian,
and I'm
you
sticking
know,
to it.
I stopped listening when you said Luca over Jokic.
Run it
Explain
back.
to me.
Run the tape back. We can run the tape back.
Explain to me, what is Luca doing better than Nikola Jokic?
Luka Doncic has less support than
Thank
Nikola
you.
Jokic has. He has less support around his team, right? Luka Doncic sits, that team loses. Nikola sits, catch a W. Jamal Murray just got back. Luka Doncic, from where I'm sitting, is the only one in the top five that has never had an all-star teammate. Nikola has Jamal, KD has Kyrie, Jason Tatum has Jalen Brown, Joel has James Harden. Luka Doncic has Tim Hardaway Jr. Luka Doncic that's his support. That's one of the main reasons. But also, he's been too close too many times, and he's currently averaging a league leading. I don't know if it's a league leading, but I'm quite confident that 34 points per game is leading the league while dropping 8 assists, while grabbing 8 boards. I just think what he's doing is phenomenal, and it's better than what he's ever done. I thought he should have been MVP last year. I thought he should have been in the competition the previous year. This year he's ramped it up, and that's why he gets my nod.
I have
I
to
don't, I
completely
don't,
agree with that. Like
with what Brian just said.
No, the fact that, okay, not the input. He shouldn't have been MVP last year. But to say that Luka Doncic just does not have the same level of support. So you can't expect his record to be as good as Jokic's, right? So Luka Doncic is carrying a much heavier load, and he's doing it so well.
Okay.
A la LeBron in
guys,
Cleveland for the first MVP.
Look, I don't misunderstand the theory you guys have described. I understand it. It is true, in fact, that Luka Doncic is carrying the bigger load. I will caution you on giving a player that kind of daps in his career, because it's only fair that we expect it. Whenever things are going bad, we're going to say, "Oh, but we thought you can carry. You must carry."
Nothing.
But
LeBron James
beyond
got
that,
Dwayne Wade.
beyond that, let me say this. Are you guys, because this is what I think is wrong with the argument. You're saying if I have less support in my team, that helps my MVP conversation. And I mean, you then have to look back then, Brian, and concede that there were a good amount of seasons that even LeBron James had good players in his team. So how could you say it can't be that the support?
No, so here's the argument, right? It's a contributing factor. It's not be all and end all, right? What LeBron James was in Miami with Dwayne Wade was head and shoulders the most dominant player in the NBA. He was best. He was one of the better defensive players, and by far the best offensive player. That's a different kind of case. And LeBron James had more help. He had Chris Bosh and Dwayne Wade, which is obviously more support than all of these other top four candidates outside of Luca that I've mentioned. But LeBron James was head and shoulders above them. When I look at this five right now, I can't say any one of those other guys are a torso above Luka Doncic, just by virtue of them having the support. Sure, they have the support, but if you look at the Mbumi, what did you say the difference between Dallas and number one is? I think it's about 2-3 games, right? With all that assistance. Something small like that. So that's kind of where it's not the be all and end all, but it's a contributing factor, a major factor, in my opinion.
So we could look back and also say there were instances where, for example, James Harden had a good case for actually MVP looking back. I mean, there were times he was really playing with barely any help and really taking Houston to places that we never thought made sense.
Yeah, but
Yeah,
who else was doing well in that season, right? It's like Brian is saying,
exactly.
if you are head and
Not in
shoulders above
isolation.
everyone else, it's different.
When you look at
I'll be
Russell
honest.
Westbrook's triple double, I think it was his first MVP when it was just head and shoulders, and his team was, I think, seventh in the Eastern Conference or sixth. They weren't by any means the best record in the NBA, those Washington Wizards. But what he was doing that year was head and shoulders more unbelievable compared to the next two, three guys on the list. And that's kind of where the gap was. Because there's not so much separation between these guys' performance, Nikola is almost averaging a triple double. Luca is 34 points, 8 and 8. KD is shooting 55%. Giannis is double. You know what I mean? There's no one that's too far removed from the next. And the game breaker for me in this case becomes the support. Obviously, the record would matter. If Luca was eighth, the support would still matter, but it wouldn't be enough to make him first in the race. Him being fourth, that close to first, with so much less assist or that less help, kind of puts him up there for me.
Okay. So would I be? What if I asked you guys? Because you both agree with this. If I said I'm going to give Luca Jaylen Brown, but now he moves down to where Jason Tatum is, fifth on the MVP race, would you take that deal?
Say that again, Liz.
If I said I'll give Luca Jaylen Brown, now you've got help, but you go to number 5 on the MVP list, just like where Jason Tatum is. Are you taking that deal?
I might actually, because if he moves down on the MVP list, but he does get some help, he has a greater chance in a playoff run. I don't see the Mavs right now going deep into the playoffs without actually getting him a little bit more assistance.
Because it sounds like the key, the separator for his MVP conversation is based on his roster build. And no doubt Luca fans would say, look, if we could go deep in the playoffs and it means his MVP conversation dwindles, doesn't lose, he could still be top 3, he could still win it. I mean,
in that very same breath, which of the 5 candidates can you not say that for? If Nikola said, listen, if you can get me another All-Star and I drop 5 spots in the MVP, but I get a chance to get a championship, they'll take it. There's no one who wouldn't take that.
Actually, Brian, your exact criticism for Nikola is last season, who didn't he have? He didn't have Jamal Murray. And he got the MVP.
Yeah.
And now he's look at what happened. He got the help, and now there's a small distance between him and the next guy, and he has the help, and that's what's hurting his MVP case a little bit. Do you get what I mean? So I think my fundamental question is, if you had to choose, what are you choosing? Because the other guys their cases are being reduced because they have help, but they have a higher chance of longer playoff runs.
Yeah. Oh, I'll choose a championship. I'll choose a playoff run over MVP. I think Luca will choose the same thing. Luca's tired, man. Luca every day after the game, he's fatigued. I think most players will choose.
Luca number 2. Luca number 2 in the MVP list, in the MVP race.
Wrong.
It's gonna be. No, you wrong. How do you mute someone? I don't believe this.
I've been wrong so many times. I can take it. I'm even sick of being wrong. I've been wrong so many times I can take that heat.
Okay, guys, let's move on.